Okay, so we were filming our video here showing how to install our KLR650 stator, and we noticed that this particular bike, which is a 2007, still has the original counterbalance chain tensioner. It's commonly called the Doohickey. So if you're wondering, look it up online, KLR Doohickey. You'll find a million forum posts and people talking about it. It's a real common failure on these bikes. It's one of the only major flaws with this engine. So this one's never been replaced, and just for cheap insurance, we're going to go ahead and replace it. You only need a couple tools to do it here. You need a rotor holder, which is this guy, that locks the rotor in place so you can remove the nut. And then you need the rotor or flywheel puller, which actually screws in here to pop the rotor off the crankshaft. And we're installing an Eagle Mic Doohickey counterbalance tensioner unit, which is awesome. These things are bulletproof, and Eagle Mic's a great guy, so I'd highly recommend one of these. It comes with replacement springs. He also sells a upgraded replacement called a torsion spring, a clock spring, and this is a much better unit. They never fail, so it's like 10 bucks. We're going to install that as well, just to make sure this thing never has a problem. So we already have the side cover off since we were going to remove the stator, and all you need to do to get started is remove your gears here for your starter clutch. So I'm going to get these guys out of the way, and I'm just setting them in the side case so I know where they go, although really they can't really go back in the wrong place, and have all the gears line up, so it's not too much to worry about. Okay, so to remove the flywheel, now I've already removed it once. It's loose and the nut is loose, but to show you how to do it, you take your rotor puller or your rotor holder tool and you line it up on the flat sides inside. And it's easiest to use something like, we had a tire iron here that we put through the motor mount up here, but something to hold it in place so you can turn against this. So you want to lock that in place, and then you use a 19mm socket on here. You can use an impact gun or a socket wrench with a long extension and get this guy loose. So done that, and remove the nut or bolt, and then you need your puller tool. So you're still going to need this guy to hold it in place. You're going to have your puller tool threaded in to the threads on the flywheel, and then you can hit that again with your impact gun or your socket wrench, and that will push against the crankshaft and pull this guy loose, and then you can just walk it right off the crankshaft. Okay, so now you can see inside, right? And there's not a whole lot going on here. Here's your crankshaft and your cam chain, and down here is the counterbalance mechanism, and this is what smooths out this big single cylinder motor. You got this big counterweight here, and that guy spins with this other chain here that you see behind the cam chain. And so this unit, this guy right here, is the Doohickey, and this is what is responsible. It's spring loaded behind it, and it is responsible for basically turning this sprocket back here that tensions this chain. So these things were just poorly built in the first place. They had a really weak weld on the inside here. They often break and fall apart. The chain or the spring breaks, and you'll often find pieces down in the bottom. This one is original. It was working, it looks like, although it was kind of stuck in place from not being adjusted forever, so we're definitely replacing it to be safe. Now at this point, all you got to do is use an 8mm wrench or socket here, and you want to remove the bolt unit that holds the tensioner in place. And then this guy will just walk off the shaft here. Now you can see how much play is in this, and this happens too on these, is they start to wear out over time and they don't hold very tightly on the shaft. That's also responsible for some of the noise you'll hear. And this motor, the valves are good, and it still had a kind of a clacking noise, and I'm pretty sure that was coming from the tensioner unit down here. So then you just pop it off, and you can see here, this is the failure point usually on these, is this weld. You see a little bead of weld that runs around holding the two pieces together, and that's usually where they break. So we got that guy off. Now at this point, we have to remove the inner case. The inner case is held on by these 8mm bolts. There's one on the inside here, others all the way around. We're going to undo those and pop it off. You have to do that to get to the chain, and the chain, sorry, not the chain, the spring, which is right back here. And there's just no way to replace it without the inner case off. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to loosen all these guys and pop the side cover off, and then I'll show you how to change the spring. Okay, so we have the inner case removed, as you can see, and here's what we're working with. This is the spring that needs to be removed, and here's the tensioner mechanism. This arm is actually what pushes against this gear. It's on an eccentric a little bit, so this gear will tighten up the chain. So from here, I just need to remove the spring. Just gonna pull it off. Now, if you're replacing, like the Eagle Mike kit comes with replacement springs just like the original. So if you're using one of those, you're going to want to replace it here. You just put it through the hole in the little arm here and then over the arm here, and that's it. Now we're installing the torsion spring, which the kit comes with a torsion spring and a drill bit, and that goes outside the case. So let me show you here. So here is your inner case piece. The torsion spring needs a hole drilled in the case right here, just to the right of the bolt hole here. So you want to drill, using the bit that was included, drill a hole right here through the case side. So I'm going to do that to install the torsion spring. The torsion spring actually installs right here on the outer part of the case, and if you're not using the original style spring anymore, then there's nothing left to do on the inside. You just need to remove it. So those are your two options depending on what kind of spring you're using. So the only other thing here is to clean up the surfaces, because we're going to put a new gasket on this and use some black RTV sealer, and we're going to do that, reinstall the inner case. I'm going to drill the hole for the torsion spring on the outside of the case. We'll get it reinstalled and then show you how to put the doohickey and the spring back on, and that's about it. Okay, so side case, or inner side case, is reinstalled. Got all the bolts torqued down, so we're good on that. You can see here's the adjuster lever sticking through, or the shaft sticking through right here. So when you reinstall your new doohickey, or the lever piece, you want to turn this clockwise, so you'll see it tensions the chain a little bit. So you want to have it set, just turn it as far clockwise as you can. That'll put it in about the right position. So like I mentioned earlier, if you were installing the stock style spring, you would have already done that back behind here. If you're not, you're using the torsion spring like this guy, you'll see that I drilled the hole right there, just to the right of the bolt hole a little bit. And it has two ends. It has a straight end and it has the hooked end. So the straight end goes with the hooked end facing out. We'll press into the hole that you just drilled. I'm just going to kind of wedge it in place there to show you. And you want to push it all the way in so it's sitting back flush against this piece. And then you want to take your new doohickey and line it up with the shaft. And once you have that in place, you'll take your bolt that holds it in. Now the kit comes with a new washer. We already had one, so I'm not using it. If you don't have one, you want to use it. And you want to go ahead and thread that in. And you can tighten it up a little bit to hold this guy in place. So I'll push it as tight as possible by hand. Okay, tighten it up a little bit. Now I'm going to have to use a screwdriver, some needle nose pliers, something like that, and twist the torsion spring counterclockwise until I can hook the hook end of it over the gap here. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and twist that around, get it installed, and then I'll show you one final look just to see how everything looks assembled. And then basically reinstallation is the same as you took it apart. You're going to put your flywheel, make sure you put your Woodruff key in place on the crankshaft, and then slide your rotor back in place and reinstall your starter gears. And that's really it for installing the doohickey or the counterbalance tensioner. One more quick shot here real quick showing you everything attached. Here's the spring's been fully inserted in the hole in the case. It is, the lever is installed and the hooked end of the spring is completely captured over here on the end. And we have tightened up the bolt. and we do not have any play in our counterbalance chain anymore. So that's going to solve the rattling we were getting from this motor and will completely prevent any future problems. You just need to loosen this guy up every couple thousand miles and tap the case with a hammer a little bit to make sure it tensions, and then tighten it back up, and that's about it. You never have to worry about it again. So I'm going to get the flywheel and the gears reinstalled, and I'll just show you one more shot with all of it back on. And one final shot showing you everything back on. The flywheel's been reinstalled with the Woodruff key, so it's lined up. I've tightened the bolt here to hold the flywheel in place and reinstalled the starter gears. And so that's it. That's your entire job to replace the doohickey. So don't be afraid to do it while you have the side cover off doing a stator. Cheap insurance for the life of the bike. And that's it. And we'll get back to our stator video.